This is the 143rd episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the second week of July, 2013. This episode is titled Love and Betrayal. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, your cloud computing experts. I'm your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me for the 143rd time is co-host Justin Edelstein. Justin, how are you doing?
I'm good. I was just stretching out, getting nice and limber.
I had a little moment there where I thought, is this really our 143rd, or did we skip 142? Did your mind just blew?
I guess it's 143. I mean, the last one did have the number 142 on
Okay,
it,
good.
didn't it?
Yeah, just for a moment there, I was like,
did you check?
I did
Are we
check.
sure? Do we have to scrap this and do it again?
No, this podcast
You did
is
a good intro this week as opposed to last week.
142 was besties. Okay,
Yeah,
so there you go.
Last week you didn't do a very good intro.
I did a
But
great intro.
This week was really solid, let me tell you.
I practiced.
Scale of 1 to 10, that was like a 9.
1 week. I practiced all week long. All right.
Yeah, you did. It's probably
We have
all
an
you did
agenda
all
this week. We have the blog post of the week, which happens to be yours.
I got to open that up because I wrote it, but I don't really remember
that's something
everything
we
that's in
try to
there.
do before the podcast started, is open up everything. We have some Arkus news, which would be cool. Talk about Dropbox has a new sort of thing that they're getting into the market with. The Salesforce Betrayal. New York City getting its own domain. And then we have our typical Dreamforce stuff. Dreamforce, planning for Dreamforce. Dreamforce are us. I don't know. They've announced actually one new speaker, and
I'm excited about the speaker that they threw out there.
All right, we'll get to it at the end, and then we'll make a CloudFocus app pick of the week, and then we'll call it a Friday here at the Arkus Studios.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Well, first up is actually, why don't we switch these two and put one before two?
Do whatever you want. I mean, just do it on the fly.
I will.
Whatever you want.
Well, you're still opening up.
I was actually opening up the success community so I could talk about my blog post being talked about on the success community.
Okay, that's very nice.
Yes.
So a little Arkus news. We have two pieces of Arkus news, actually.
Yeah, big time.
One is it's not a small thing. We've actually redesigned the website, which has been a long time in the coming, and finally here. So go to arkus.com or blog.arkus.com.
Arkus Inc.
Arkusinc.com. Yeah, don't go to Arkus.
Why don't you give them the right domain? Why don't you just tell them where to go?
Oh, my mind is so
Hey, why
gone.
don't you just go to Google and type in Arkus?
Yeah, you will find us.
And you'll
Anyway,
get
we
us.
resigned it. It's still got some quirks. We're still trying to work out a little stuff, but it's up and running for your pleasure. It's actually now on a actual real cloud server, as before it was on a dedicated server. Difference is like hardware. So that's one piece of news. You can check that out.
Love it.
And the
Yay, cloud.
the second piece is that Arkus is hiring. So if you are know somebody or are someone who wants to get into Salesforce project management and consulting, or you already do that and want to come to Arkus because you want to be on the podcast, we can guarantee you no swats on the podcast. But anyway, so send
Maybe
an
a
email.
guest spot or a person who shall not be named. And
Yeah,
we'll
if you
quote
want to be a
that
person who
that
shall not
way.
be named, you should apply for a job at Arkus. So we're looking for a project manager,
Why don't you
Salesforce
tell them
consultant.
how they can get in touch?
First
with us?
of all, you should already know. If you're listening to this podcast, there's no reason you don't know how to get in touch with us.
That's true.
All right? So how's that? And then second, you can send an email to info@arkusinc.com, and we'll get it.
Someone will get it,
No, it'll come into us.
like somewhere.
Yeah, anywhere. You could actually send it to a bunch of, but do that. That would be a good place. Start it there, and just send over whatever information you want, and we'll go from there. All right, so let's go to your blog post of the week.
Salesforce.com features that need some love.
By the way, did you like the graphic? So you didn't post it this week because we're in the midst of
'cause we're
our
in the middle of
blogging.
the switch over. So
Right.
you took over. Yeah, I like this one.
Wasn't that kind
Looking
of fun?
for love. Yeah, it's good.
That
I
was
like
funny.
it. So this was my take on. I've been working with and on Salesforce for about 7 years now.
7 years. Laugh at your 7 years.
Laugh at my 7 and double down on it. And over
I'm
those
at
7
11 or
years,
something.
obviously, Salesforce.com has grown. I was working on it before there was Force.com. It was just Salesforce.com. And it's grown immensely. But there are things that are kind of legacy and have been left behind that I thought, hey, here's some features that really need some love. Or if you're not going to give them some love, maybe just replace them or get rid of them or buy somebody to replace that particular feature.
Right.
So, we're not going to go through all of these.
They're available at blog.arkusinc.com.
They're available at blog.arkusinc.com. I gave 4 kind of big ones and then some quick hits before we go. What I did do, though, is you posted it on the new Success community.
Yes.
New Salesforce Success
So, by the way,
community.
we are in the new Success.
We're in there.
And
There's
this
a CloudFocus
podcast.
weekly podcast group that you all should go in and join. But you posted the blog post, and I reshared it to the True to the Core group, where it started to get a little buzz.
A little buzz, really.
A lot of likes and 11 comments. Back and forth, and there's some people. I just mentioned some of the stuff that they've mentioned.
Wait, did you put it into I put it in the True to the Core. Did you too? You put it in there too?
Maybe I shared it back into the same group.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's not paying
That's
attention.
not very good. No, you just posted to your profile, I think, and then I
think I threw it in. You know what? I might have done True to the Core inside the Dreamforce portal.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, this is the problem with having
This is a
different
little weird.
communities. but-
So I popped it into the True to the Core group
Yep.
on the big community. And, I mentioned contracts. I'm not going to mention all the things that I mentioned about contracts, but people picked up on that and said, yeah, that's a good one. Contracts really need some help. People jumped in and said, activities still need some help. They need to be treated a little bit more like first class objects.
Oh, no, it's right below. It's right below your post is me reposting it.
Well, I got more traction than you did. That's for sure. And and tagging also got some big.
So so if you had to pick one, so you if I were to say you could go out, meet with Mark Benioff, this is crazy, but you go out, meet with Mark Benioff, you could sit in front of him for like 5 seconds, and you get to give him one thing to do. One thing. I'm going to give you one thing. It's not a book. It's a thing. One thing to do, and I'm actually putting one thing in front of his face. What would you tell him to do? Of these
tags.
Out of all of them, you would...
Out of the things that I mentioned here, tags. Yes, tags. Get tags to work. Make it work with all the other things that you're doing with hashtags, and make them... Because there's so many times that users want to, in an ad hoc way, sort of tag stuff and then report on them and put them into lists and blast them in some way.
I don't even know if it comes to like my second, but number one only, I looked down your list quickly, calendar. Like, that's the thing. I would pay him maybe like $5, but I pay him to make calendar the calendar.
Like a real calendar?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like meeting
put that
invite.
In there at the bottom.
And now that you think about it, you're like, I probably say calendar.
Well, it's only because we use it a lot.
A lot.
But I don't use tags at all, only because they're complete waste.
It's true. Like, we did an interest object the other day.
I can use the calendar. I can't even use tags. They're useless.
Because of not being in reports and not being
there's hashtags and topics, and they're just completely lost. Like, they don't mean anything. They got to come together. You got to be able to tag stuff, and you got to be able to run a report on things I've tagged, or run a list so I can get it into a campaign or something.
Right.
Like, tags can be extremely powerful, but they're lost because
they're just dead.
They're just It was a quick foray into Web 2.0 when tagging was all the rage, and it was like, oh, I could tag my photos on Flickr, and I could tag my this on Delicious, and I could tag everything everywhere. So they just half-heartedly threw tags into the mix, but didn't really follow through with it after that.
That's right. It's because I think the way they architected it is they built it as a separate object, and therefore it can't go into list views and it can't go into reports unless you build those.
It needs to be done better. Anyway.
All right. Well, that's at blog.
Go read it.
Yeah, go read it and discuss is working at the bottom. So if you want to discuss it.
Comment there. You can comment in the success community. You could comment basically all over the place.
All over the place. So do that.
Tweet me if you'd like.
Tweet at Justin. He loves it. He loves some good tweeting.
I like some good tweeting every now and again.
All right. Next up is actually an interesting Dropbox announced we're big Dropbox fans.
Yeah, I used Dropbox just the other day. I know you use it all the time, but I used it for a very specific use case. So I was at a party last weekend on July 4th weekend, and my girlfriend's father was playing a gig, music. They were playing a jazz band.
Okay.
So a 4-piece string I guess you would call that a string quartet, a jazz band, and they were playing, and I was video recording. I was going to say videotaping, but I was video recording using my iPhone, and they were like, 4-minute songs, 4-minute songs. So they were long. And I was like, oh, I can't even like email this to them. They were too long, and I can't like, do anything really with this because they're too big. So I haven't plugged that iPhone into this computer ever. I've literally never plugged it into the computer. So I plug it into the computer, and it's like, would you like us to suck this stuff into Dropbox? And I'm like, oh, that's kind of neat. Yeah, do that. So it sucks all my photos, including the movies or videos, into Dropbox. I then slide them into another folder in Dropbox, make the folder public, shoot him a link, and boom, he's got all 5 videos that I recorded.
Yeah, you can actually just right-click on anything and say, give me
the URL.
Give me the URL.
Yeah, I threw him into a folder,
right.
and then
do it with the folder.
Gave him the link to the folder, so he had all 5.
So
that was a nice little Dropbox use case. I know this is going well beyond that.
Right. So Dropbox has been known about syncing files, and that's sort of what it's doing. It's done a great job for a long time. I was not the earliest adopter, but I was, because I always had iCloud, and iCloud kind of did it. And as soon as iCloud started to get worse and worse, and they said they were going to kill it, I'm like, okay.
What was it even called? It was before mobile.
iDisk.
iDisk. That's right.
So what they are announced, which I think is, it's right down the right path, which is that Dropbox is now going to do something called data stores. So this will allow apps. This is an API, set of APIs that will allow apps to, very much like how iCloud works, that you can write to the Dropbox via your application and store things that then get synced. So if they give the example, this is on Gizmodo, they give the example of the two that do it today, which is one thing we use all the time, Text Expander. You can have your Text Expander snippets sort of go into a folder inside of Dropbox. And that's kind of, okay, that's neat. But this will allow it as an API to write to it, which then means you can then grab it from other places. So the idea is you have an iPhone app, an iPad app, an Android app, a Windows machine, and a Mac machine. You can then read. They could all use Dropbox as the way to read preferences or saved things.
It breaks the walls down,
right?
Because you can do that stuff if you're an Apple guy and you've got your iCloud. You can do a lot of those things with iCloud, but this breaks the walls down between the platforms,
right? And
makes Dropbox the platform.
It makes Dropbox the cloud syncing platform, and it's great because, that feeling of whenever you log in. I don't know how often it happens, but you log into an app on one of your devices, and it all of a sudden realizes that you exist somewhere else, and it picks that stuff up and it brings you in. It's like,
great.
Oh, very cool. So then take this to the level of apps, and I think where you could even see it going more would be, fine, apps can talk, great. So like app on iPhone, app on Android, app on Mac. But then what about web app? So then web app could also write to it. And then therefore you get that kind of wherever you are, the data is sitting behind and you are being able to talk to it. So great stuff. I'm very excited about this. I can't wait to see what happens with it. It's another just provance of the cloud and Dropbox, and sort of continuing down this path of
games are going to be big on that.
Yeah, I think the problem with games is that the big games, like real games, Microsoft and PS3 or so Microsoft and Sony right now, they want to be in their own land. They don't want to share. They don't want you to be off platform.
Like the mobile, like the games that you would have on kind of your mobile, but then you can also have it on an Android tablet kind of situation.
I think that's what this does, because in iCloud this exists, but if you try to leave the iCloud world, you can't do this.
You're walled in. Right. This allows you to break out.
Right. So it also means that you have to then trust Dropbox. So then if you're a developer, you're kind of putting your stuff into Dropbox. I know, so an example is Instacast actually built theirs through iCloud first, syncing through iCloud, then really rebuilt it themselves. They built Instacast syncing server or whatever. Omni Group.
What does Omni Group do?
They built their own.
They built their own, right? You're on the Omni server,
Omnipresence.
Omni something.
Yep. Yeah. Because
it used
the
to
limitations.
Use Mobile Me, right?
They used to,
use Mobile Me.
So they built their own because they're like, there's just limitations of what you can do. And I think theirs is open source, so it can be used by. So hopefully this type of thing means that every developer, because not to be honest, let's lie a lot.
Let's lie about it.
I don't want Instacast developers and Omni Group worrying about syncing of preferences and that stuff. I want them working on their program. And if they could just offload that to somebody else or make it a preference, click use Dropbox, that's awesome. So building that as an API level, I think is great. I'm very excited. This, I think, has tons. You'll see so much that come out. It seems like a tiny bit of news, but I think it's really going to be big. Next up is an Information Week article entitled Salesforce.com Betrayal Seen Sparking Private Cloud Moves. So this is...
Oohs and ahs. Just went
Betrayal.
Entire audience.
So it's a flashy title, right? And it's meant to have people click on it and talk about it on their podcast. But it's they got it from Ray Wang, who we've actually met and I've seen speak a couple times at Integration World. He comes from Constellation Research. I think it's his company. Don't know much about him other than that. I know he's a huge Twitter guy and a research guy, so comes and puts out research and whatever. And we've had a chance to talk to him at Integration World about Salesforce, and he said both like very nice things and then immediately said very shocking and kind of like derogatory things in the same sentence. So I was like, whoa, you're all over the map. So he's just saying that the connection or the handshake or brother love of Mark Benioff and Oracle or whatever, Oracle and Salesforce, is a betrayal of the people who bought into Salesforce customers. I actually hit him up on Twitter and said, hey, that's a little rough, and he's like, oh, you should take a poll of your clients. To which point I said, I have not polled my clients, by the way, but I don't know if I'm a client.
I'm a client.
I don't see it as betrayal.
I'm not sure.
I see it as business.
I know a lot of our clients listen, or some of them do. I'm not 100% sure that any of them would. Some of them would know.
They'd read the news.
Most of them wouldn't care at all, I don't think. And what do they care? They get Salesforce
we're going to be staying on the same platform we've been on forever, and we'll be changing something in the background that you've never even known about.
You don't ever see. And hey, if it gets better, it gets better.
Right.
But it's not going to get any worse, or not that it's bad anyway. So I don't think they would care one way or the other. I think this is like a tech person getting to talk about things. This is a research analyst that gets to talk about things, but at the end of the day, the consumer, I don't think this is news for them.
Well, so he went on to basically say this is bigger for Salesforce, and that Salesforce now can sell more of a private cloud solution, and that the reason Salesforce loses deals is because of on-prem. We know that Salesforce is actually doing an on-prem deal, like building basically a pod for the government. So they built a government pod. I've heard of this before. In fact, when we worked at Citi, there was one of the things that got floated out there. And at this point, so many years ago, who cares? But there was the concept at that point was, and again, no one's even around, so no one can get in trouble for this because they're not even around anymore. But like the concept was, they would take a pod, so a Salesforce pod, so like you have NA1, NA2, NA3,
be on NA35
or be Citi whatever. And you'd throw it into, like New York City, and you'd throw it into government. It'd be Gov35, Gov1, Gov1, and you'd put it into your servers, but it'd be their hardware, their setup, and then it would still be on the same release cycle. So it would not be in the cloud. No one else in the world would use it. It would only be yours, but you would still be on Salesforce's cycle. So meaning, if Winter 13 comes, you're going to be pushed to Winter 13. If you're summer, there's no difference other than it's internally to you and you're the only users of it. Then you can do stuff about data. We're keeping better data. It does kill the model of the cloud, meaning the utilization of it has to be watched because, even when they talk about doing it at that big company that I've just named, that is like, okay, great. But now if you have two people on this massive set of servers, you're doing exactly what the cloud computing is supposed to not do, which is to allow one thing get under or overutilized. So
Yeah, I think the headline was spurred by, a question asked to Mark Benioff about, well, now that you're going to be on this entire stack of Oracle, like, the whole way through,
Right.
Is there a reason to believe that you wouldn't be able to just boom, pop Salesforce right into someone's data center, because it's the same stuff now all the way from, every tier, right? And he kind of didn't answer it with a defiant no.
Right.
He answered it as he said not yet.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where the betrayal of that is. If that's the way Salesforce wants to sell.
I still don't feel betrayed as a Salesforce.com customer. I'm going to choose to use it the way I want to use it. I'm not buying a Oracle Exadata thing and putting it in my conference room or my server room or whatever.
That's where you put your Exadata, by the way. You put it in your conference room. That's how many
in the corner.
That's what kind of IT background you have.
Right in the corner. We just throw it in there like a bookshelf.
All right.
Like that's what we do.
So here you go, Ray. I don't feel betrayed, and I've surveyed two out of 100% of the client surveys.
Not betrayed.
Yes.
Even though I don't even know if I believe some of the numbers that he's throwing out there. He's quoted. He's putting his name on it, but quoted for every 100 CRM deals that we saw last year.
That's him.
That's kind of a big statement that we saw.
Right.
About 43 went to Microsoft Dynamics and 38 went to Salesforce.
Well,
and the reason that Dynamics beat them out is because there was an on-premise option.
Well, by the way, his shop does Microsoft and Salesforce. So I would tell you, if we did the same survey, it would be I actually know, and I think it's like 1% go to Microsoft. Why? Because of the deals we're looking at, they're all Salesforce. Like sometimes there's a bake-off, but the chances that I've seen of Salesforce when we're in a deal that it's going to Microsoft is very low. All right, well, we'll move on to that. To, I think, the fun story of the day.
This is the fun story.
Which is that
This is the fun story of the universe.
Yeah, so New York City, back a couple of years ago, the domain authority, I think it's ICCAN, something like that, brought open the idea that you can buy your own big domain. So it was really meant for like businesses. So if Salesforce wanted to have its own domain, they could apply for it and pay for it.
.crm.
You could do like a couple $100,000, I think it was, and like $100,000 a year. It was something expensive.
I remember at the time it was
we covered it on the podcast.
Yeah, like you can have like .bank, and all the banks could get together and split the difference on how much it would cost, and they would all own the top level .bank. Right. We talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that one. So I think this is what happened was that New York City went off and said, all right, we'll get one. And so they bought .nyc, which then they're going to resell. So they bought it not to use it, which like we were talking about a bank doing, but they bought it or whatever. Or
that was the idea. You would buy it so that you can then sell domains within that.
So clearly we're in New York City and it's, whatever. So, that's sort of big to us. But I kind of like it. And I thought, for vanity's sake, someone who lives in New York, the idea of getting a .nyc domain would be kind of fun.
I'm jumping in early. I'm buying Yankees.nyc.
Won't be able to do it.
New York Jets.nyc.
They already sold it.
No, I'm going to buy it for like $6.
Well, that's the thing, is that New York will then control the sale of this because it's their domain.
Right.
So
can I buy it through GoDaddy.nyc?
No. So they paid $185,000 to register the domain. They can make it back because they could go to the 5 sports teams and at least get $50,000 each.
Yep.
And then they could go to, I don't know, parks and, they could charge internally for it for whatever. And then their own use. They can make that back no time. Anyway, I love it. I hope it comes up that people can buy them because I'd love to get like
businesses, people, whatever.
Arkus.nyc.
Arkus.nyc.
Yeah, that kind of, but see, for Arkus is kind of limiting. Like you don't want to be
Arkusinc.nyc. You got me that time.
Yeah, there you go.
Can't believe you're falling into this trap.
I'm falling into the trap. All right, and then lastly, before we head into our CloudFocus app
let's cover this before the picks.
No, I'm saying lastly, before we get into our CloudFocus app pick of the week.
All right, gotcha.
There's actually a new sponsor for Dreamforce, or not sponsor, a new speaker.
Yeah.
They announced a new speaker last week. They haven't announced
Who are you referring to? Because I saw that there were a couple of people.
Oh, well, I don't know. Name them then.
Well, Marissa Mayer was the one that I was really looking for.
That'll be fun. So Marissa Mayer is
She's now the CEO of Yahoo.
Yeah.
I've known her and followed a lot of the stuff that she's done from her Google days. That would be fun to see her speak. She's a very good speaker. And Deepak Chopra.
Deepak Chopra, who will probably do the
inspirational keynote, which they're going to bring back.
Yes.
Because I think last year that was really missing.
You know who's also speaking, which is kind of cool?
Tell me.
Mark Benioff, president and CEO of Salesforce.com, is going to speak at Dreamforce.
Really?
Yeah.
Is Parker Harris going to speak?
I don't know.
I kind of hope not. Sorry, Parker.
Wow. Wow, you just got in trouble.
Sorry, Parker. Jason said it.
But if you want to go to Dreamforce,
Jason Atwood said it.
I think it's next week. The prices are going up again.
Oh, which means you got to register now.
July 18th, they go up.
Go register now and use the discount code D13MVPREF. Use that
to save
$100,
right? Because it's now $8.99.
D13MVPREF.
The other thing we had the Dreamforce rumor.
What's the rumor?
Well, the rumor is that
don't go spreading rumors that you might not be able to say.
That's why it's a rumor.
But who said it?
I don't care. It's a rumor.
Okay, what's the rumor?
The rumor is that the hotel situation is going to get so crazy that they got to bring in cruise ships.
No, that's a crazy.
They're going to bring
someone
in
silly.
They're going to bring cruise ships.
That's not a rumor. I think someone said that as a joke, and you're taking it as a rumor.
Well, that's right.
So you're now spreading this ludicrousness, if that's a word.
Nope, not
lunacy.
Yeah, maybe that's a word.
That's a word.
Write that down.
Can we get to the next podcast already?
So anyway, register with the aforementioned code, get $100 off. It's going to be great. We're working on the sessions we're trying to speak at or whatever. We're working on our event. We're working on all sorts of stuff. I will tell you, I'm surrounded, in fact, by all of our notes.
We're here in our studio, our new studio,
our inspiration
which
room,
doubles as a conference room
and as a lunchroom.
Whiteboard walls.
Wait, as a lunchroom.
2 of the 4 walls. The other 2 walls are rubber. And
padded,
and there's just Dreamforce stuff everywhere, all over these walls.
Yes, as well as my how to take the That's my how to take the Salesforce exam quick sheet.
Oh, is that how to fail it or how to pass it?
That's how to pass it.
So why were you doing that?
Because I've passed them all except for one.
Gotcha.
Oh no, I failed the first time I took, but then I passed it a day later. Yes.
Yeah.
I've never failed a recert though. Have you ever failed the? Oh, you have?
Open book test. I failed it once.
Yeah, once.
And I was like, oh, that's not good.
All right, Let's get on to our CloudFocus app pick of the week.
Let's do it.
I have a really good one.
Mine is
not very good.
Not very well. It's pretty cool. I was out of picks. I went to someone who shall remain nameless. Maybe you one day out there. This could be you.
That's a recruiting tool. You could be nameless.
Pick my CloudFocus app picks of the week.
You could be nameless at Arkus.
That's right. So this one is called Pop. Pop. It's a hard word to say on a podcast because you don't want to pop your peas. But prototyping on paper is what it stands for. It's free on iOS from a company called Woomoo. I just really like that name. I think I spelled it wrong here. I think it's only 2 O's. Woomoo. And what it allows you to do is you actually draw on paper what you want your iOS app to look like.
On real paper?
On real paper. It's for prototyping.
Okay.
So I've actually done this before.
Yes.
Where I've taken sort of like a sketch of an iPhone and drawn like iPhone apps, how I want the interactions to work on an iPhone. So what this does is you do that, then you take pictures, and then you can link everything together. So you
so
say, this button links to this picture. That kind of thing.
Nice.
This interaction.
So there you could draw it on a whiteboard,
You can draw it on a whiteboard. It's really like you want to get it to the right size or close to it. So you want to draw it on a piece of paper. Or sure, you can do it on a whiteboard. And then you take the pictures of each screen, and then Pop allows you to link the screens together to create the interactions.
Right. So it's like you click this and you're pressing on
a working prototype. So Pop, prototype on paper. I went through the samples. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool.
So you actually used it?
Yeah, I used it.
All right.
I have it on my
iOS device?
Yeah.
Okay.
Free. I know how it works. It's free. It's from Woomoo. And for those of you who are developing iOS mobile applications, I mean, prototyping it is a good first step. Drawing it.
This is for getting your funding, your seed funding. Like you just do this, you go out.
Do this, you show somebody, it sort of
boom,
works.
Boom, $1 million. You're done.
Next Facebook.
Next, you are the Facebook.
Face block. You're fake block.
Fake block.
It's
for all you
anti-piracy software.
For all you things. Oh, so a couple feedback points.
It's private.
One is we've had a request already for the next episode, the next special episode.
I like that one too.
The email one.
We should do that because we have really good content around that from our
I have a presentation.
Internal webinars. I think we should just do our internal webinar.
Well, we've talked about a couple, and I'll keep saying them because this is where I'm keeping the list. It's actually in this recorded.
Oh, okay.
Which we've talked
That's
about.
Not very good.
We talked about getting started with getting things done, meaning how do you get started. We talked about weekly review, so another GTD topic. We talked about paperless, which I've actually been doing research on, and I have picks for my paperless podcast.
Gotcha.
Probably my peeves. And then email was one of them. Meaning how to manage email, how we do it, have whatever, all the sort of stuff we did in meetings, but we'll do it with email.
Right.
I will say more than meetings, email is something that I can riff on forever. That was for you, Pam, riffing on it. And yeah, I guess we can do email next. I'll see if it's a blow up success. What I want to do is put a poll in the success community and say, what do you want to hear? And so we'll wait till we get enough people in there. I mean, I don't know how many people are in. Have you seen how many people are in in our group there?
When last time I looked, it was something like 18 or so. But I am logged in, so I can.
So there you go. I can
actually take a look. And
All right.
I'll interject in the middle
of my
while you're talking. I'm just gonna say a number as you're talking, and people will just be like, "Oh, okay." There's 25 members.
25. There you go. It's getting there. So here's my pick.
Read them all out loud as you're doing this.
Please do not do that.
Here's our members.
Do not do that. So
Jason Atwood.
So as you know, and I'm showing you a picture of my Instacast.
I'm seeing it.
So Instacast is it's where I listen to all my podcasts, and you're seeing that I have 20 different podcasts.
Lots of them, tons of them.
So I'm not just a podcaster. I'm also someone who listens to podcasts a lot.
You're also a fan.
So whenever people are talking about podcasts and where to go get podcasts, I'm interested. So the other day I'm sitting there listening to, I think it was a fantasy football one, and they said, "Oh, we're recording this on Tuesday, and it'll be up in iTunes on Wednesday or whatever." They're talking about how they're going to push it up that night or the day after. And they said it'll be up on iTunes and Stitcher tomorrow. And I was like, what? And Stitcher? I literally stopped.
What?
And I went back and I went, what's this Stitcher thing? Because again, in the podcast world, there's really only one place to go. It's kind of iTunes.
Do we need to be on Stitcher?
Well, we are on Stitcher.
Did you put us on Stitcher?
Yes, I did.
Great.
So I wouldn't be mentioning it in my podcast. So Stitcher, let's see if I can pull up the app now. So it's an app for iOS and Android.
So it's its own app?
It's an app, and what it is, they call it Stitcher Radio on Demand.
Okay.
Which is kind of interesting because it is a podcast. It's a podcast network. Uh-huh. So you go log into it and look what you have. A lot of shows you can browse, right? You can go into here. It's a lot of podcasts.
It's a little podcast viewer dealy.
But they're subscribable. They're also always streamed. So it just streams them.
Oh, it never downloads down?
So
that doesn't work for me.
Well, I'm saying this is another place. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm playing
Okay.
someone. Maybe I should go to my.
Maybe you should
my
go to one of
stations.
ours.
Yeah, here we go. My stations. So here I have my stations. Well, what's interesting about this? Well, oh, by the way, wait, sorry. Actually, I might be wrong. Oh,
What was that?
that was us talking. Hold on one second. I got to go back.
That didn't
because
even
I did
sound
see
like
this. Hold
us.
on.
Oh,
Ah,
offline
there we
listening.
go. So yes, you can download them.
That's good because
Okay.
that works better for me as a subway commuter.
As a subway viewer. But here's what I liked about it, and if I can go in here and look, is that in the actual podcast, and I'll try to turn this down as it downloads, so you won't hear it. Okay. So when you're in the podcast,
Yeah.
what you can do is
Thumbs up it.
you can vote on stuff, and I think even on the app online, you can then leave reviews and stuff. So it's kind of like it's trying to do iTunes again. So I got us in there. CloudFocus Weekly is in there. It's called Stitcher. It's kind of cool. Like, and of course it has the friends. So if you go in there, I'll be able to. Oh, look, there's some people, my friends in Stitcher, who are using Stitcher, and I can see what they're listening to.
Oh yeah, look at those two guys.
So it's kind of got the little bit of iTunes,
A little bit of social.
a little bit of social, and it's a little bit of the Instacast.
All right.
But it is not everything's in there. It's a little bit it's exclusive too. Like I had to apply for it, and I had to say why it was
Really?
so good. Yeah.
How many jelly beans?
Oh, 0, but I had to apply. They had to review.
They had to approve.
They had to
you
approve the
as
podcast.
a user or the podcast.
the podcast.
Oh, that's fine.
well, that's what I'm saying. It's not just a collection
Is
of
it
everything.
is it a place that explicit podcasts go, or is it just?
I
clean
know of an
podcasts
explicit
go?
podcast that was already in there, but that podcast has been around since 2007, so I'm sure it just got picked
so
up
that
like when
one
they
just,
started,
like,
and they like sucked in
They just
everything.
sucked it in.
That's what my guess is.
Gotcha.
Anyway, another place to listen to podcasts. Go for it. Stitcher, iOS, Android, PlayStation,
PlayStation, really?
stations, streaming, radio, subscribing, and liking inside of Stitcher. So give it a shot and let me know. It's free. So for all you who don't want to pay for any, you don't
That's
like paying,
me. I don't like paying.
right? Cross-platform.
Very
And
important.
so it works in the browser. So unlike Instacast, there's no version of Instacast that's in your browser. So anyway, Stitcher, I think it's great. It's a really good one. I'm so excited that I'm excited to see another place where podcasts are done. All right, so that's the end of the podcast. We'll remember to follow us at Just Edelstein, at Jason M. Atwood, and Arkus Inc. On the Twitter. We're on Facebook.com/Arkus Inc. We're in the Dreamforce portal. We're in the Success Community portal. There's a CloudFocus Weekly podcast group in both of those. You can go into either one. We will be keeping up with both. So while Salesforce is separating you out, we will keep you together because we'll be posting all podcast episodes in both and communicating in both. We're on LinkedIn and Google Plus and all the other things. Remember to go subscribe to iTunes, or now you can subscribe in Stitcher, which is neat. And we'll be back next week with another episode. We'll figure out when we're going to actually do our next special episode. But until then, we'll be back next week. And until then, as always, enjoy those cloudy days.